Well, hello, grandkids. We are back for chapter 6 of Shiloh. And before we plunge into chapter 6, I'm wondering if you remember Marty's 3 problems that he stated at the beginning of chapter 5. He talked about 3 problems, and 2 of them he feels like he had figured out, but the 3rd problem he hasn't figured out yet. And then as we read through chapter 5, it looks like Marty is getting in the middle of kind of a big mess. Do you feel that way? I wonder if you could describe that to one of the grown-ups in your life and see what they think. But, so pause the video for just a moment, see if you can remember those 3 things, and then tell somebody a little bit about what's going on with Marty, and if you've ever felt that way. All right, so here we go. Chapter 6. I don't think this story can get any more exciting than it already is. All right, and you'll notice because we're reading and driving, the sun is like right in my face right now because we're headed west. So try to ignore that. Just listen to the story. Night in West Virginia is as dark as black can be. No car lights sweeping across my walls or ceiling like when I stay overnight with David Howard down at Friendly. No street lamps shining in the windows. No lights from next door houses. Where I live, there ain't no street lamps at all. No house close enough to see from our windows. My eyes are open anyway. I stare up into the darkness of the living room, and the darkness stares back. I'm remembering how once, several years ago, when Ma bought milk chocolate rabbits one Easter for me and Dara Lynn, I finished eating mine. But Dara Lynn took only a nibble of hers every day or so, keeping it up on her dresser in its pink and yellow tin foil, driving me nuts. And one day, I just crept in there and ate off one of the rabbit's ears. Dara Lynn, of course, threw a fit. And when Ma asked me if I'd done it, I said no. I could feel my cheeks and neck burning red. "You sure, Marty?" she asked. I only nodded and left the room. It was one of the worst days in my life. About an hour later, she come out on the porch where I was pushing myself slow in the swing and sat down beside me. "You know, Marty," she said, "Dara Lynn don't know who ate the ear off her candy rabbit, and I don't know who did it, but Jesus knows. And right this very minute, Jesus is looking down with the saddest eyes on the person who ate that chocolate." The Bible says that the worst thing that can ever possibly happen to us is to be separated forever from God's love. I hope you'll keep that in mind. I just swallowed and didn't say anything, but before I went to bed, when Ma asked me again about the rabbit, I gulped and said yes, and she made me get down on my knees and ask God's forgiveness, which wasn't so bad. I honestly felt better afterwards, but then she said that Jesus wanted me to go into the next room and tell Dara Lynn what I'd done, and Dara Lynn had a fit all over again. Threw a box of Crayolas at me and could have broke my nose. Called me a rotten, greedy pig. If that made Jesus sad, Ma never said. Now as I study the darkness in the room around me, I'm thinking about lies again. I hadn't lied to Judd Travers when I said I hadn't seen his dog in the yard today. That was the honest-to-God truth, because Shiloh hadn't been anywhere near our yard. But I also know that you can lie not only by what you say, but what you don't say. Nothing I told Judd was an outright lie, but what I'd kept inside myself made him think that I hadn't seen the dog at all. "Jesus," I whisper finally, "what you want me to do? Be 100% honest and carry that dog back to Judd so that one of your creatures can be kicked and starved all over again? Or keep him here and fatten him up to glorify your creation?" The question seemed to answer itself, and I'm pretty proud of that prayer. Repeat it to myself so I can remember in case I need to use it again. story cards from Sunday school make him out to be, he ain't the kind to want a thin little beagle to be hurt. The problem's more mixed up than that, though. I'm lying to my folks as well. I'm not eating the leftover meatloaf I put away. Every bit of food is money saved that could go to buy Dara Lynn a new pair of sneakers, so Ma wouldn't have to cut open the tops of her old ones to give her toes more room. Every little bit of food wasted is money wasted. If we ever have the least little bit of money to spare that doesn't have to go for the care of Grandma Preston, first thing we all want is a telephone, so we don't have to ride down to Doc Murphy's to use his. But the way I figure it, if it's food from my own plate that I would have eaten myself but don't, what harm is in that? Next morning, when I go up to see Shiloh, I put the rope on his collar and lead him to the other side of the hill again, out of sight of all but God. Then I let him go. We race and tumble and laugh and roll, stopping now and then to lie in the clover, me on my back, Shiloh on his stomach, both of us panting and nuzzling each other. Don't know if Shiloh's getting more human or I'm getting used to be more dog. If Jesus ever comes back to earth again, I'm thinking he'll come as a dog, because there isn't anything as humble or patient or loving or loyal as the dog I have in my arms right now. We eat our Sunday meal, but by late afternoon, storm clouds roll in, and the rain beats down so the tin roof of our house streaming down the window glass, making a small pond in the side yard. I can't help staring out the window at the far hill. Will Shiloh, can he even leap that fence to try and go to find somewhere it's more dry? Is he smart enough to go under that lean-to I made for him? Have I built it right, away from the wind? What if he gets to howling? In 20 minutes, the rain stops, though. The sun comes out and the birds start to sing again. All those worms oozing up through the wet mud. Shiloh stayed where he was, trusting me that where I put him was best. Being quiet, like he knows his life depends on it. Marty, Dad says, going outside with a rag to wipe off his Jeep. I saw Mrs. Howard yesterday, and she said that David was back from Tennessee, wanting to know when you boys can get together. She said David would like to come up here someday next week. I like David Howard fine, but I sure don't want him up here. David likes the hills, always wants to play there. He's not afraid of snakes the way Dara Lynn is. David, in fact, likes to go to the very top of that hill, and they'll go running lickety-split down it, racing to see who's first to the fence at the bottom. Likes to climb the trees up there, too, and play lookout. Well, I'll go down to David's tomorrow, I say. I'd rather do that. Why not do both, Ma says, coming out to throw some mash to the hens. You've hardly seen any friends all summer, Marty. Why don't you go down to Friendly one afternoon and ask David to come up here another? There's nothing much to do up here, I say, not knowing how to answer. It was the wrong answer. Both Ma and Dad were looking at me now. You said just the other day you had plenty to do here, Dad tells me, wringing out his rag at the pump. Lots for me to do, but not much for David Howard, I say. A lie. That's a flat-out lie. Funny how one lie leads to another, and before you know it, your whole life can be a lie. I sit on the porch swing later, not even bothering to push it, and just listen to the table being set inside. What you figure is wrong with that boy, Lou? Dad's voice. Just being 11, I guess, Ma tells him. 11's a moody age. Was for me, anyway. You think that's all it is? What pleases you one day don't please you at all the next. What more do you think it is? You don't think he's got that dog on his mind still, do you? 11's got about everything on its mind, Ma answers. And then the evening news comes on, and Dara Lynn and Becky come out to the porch, leaving the TV to Daddy. Dara Lynn's got the devil in her tonight. A little bit bored with summer, but not quite ready for school to start. Just for devilment, she plunks herself down beside me in that swing and starts doing everything I do. I sigh, she sighs. I rest my arms on my head. She does the same. Gets Becky doing it too, both of them laughing to beat the band. When I have my fill of all this nonsense, I decide to go up the hill and see how Shiloh's doing. But as I get down off the porch, Darlene gets up and makes as if to follow me. I stop. I'm looking to find me a snake stick, I said to myself. I'm looking to find me a snake stick, Darlene says. I don't pay her no mind at all. Just start walking along the edge of the yard, picking up a stick here, a stick there, and Darlene tagging along behind. It's got to have the longest handle and a good strong fork on the end, I say, because that was the biggest, meanest snake I ever saw in my life. Darlene stops dead still. She couldn't say all that right if she tried, but she's not interested anymore in trying. What snake? She says. Snake I saw up on the hill this morning. I tell her, must have been 4 or 5 feet long, just looking for somebody's leg to wrap itself around. Darlene don't go a step farther. Becky don't even come down off the porch. What you gonna do when you find it? Darlene asks. Try to keep it from biting me. Pick it up with my stick second, put it in a sack, and carry it clear up past the Shiloh schoolhouse, let it out in the woods there. Won't kill it unless I have to. Kill it, says Darlene. Get your gun and blow its head off. You've been watching too much stuff on TV, Darlene, I tell her. Even snakes got the right to live. I'm thinking how if I ever become a vet's helper, I gotta take care of pet snakes too. Next day to head off, David Howard from riding up friendly on his bike. I go down to see him. I tended to Shiloh first, taking a fistful of scrambled eggs left over from breakfast, a bit of bacon, and a half slice of whole wheat toast that I'd stuck in my jeans pocket. It's not enough for the dog, I know, but probably more than he would get from Judd. It's not enough for me either. Sneaking off half my breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Shiloh, doing, makes me go half hungry all the time. But if I eat extra, then it means Shiloh's costing us money we can't afford. I fill my pockets with wormy peaches before I set out for friendly, biting off each piece, spitting it out in my hand and picking out the worms before I put it back in my mouth. It pleased me that Shiloh was sleeping in his lean-to when I got up that morning. The ground was dry under there, and I brought up some old gunny sacks from the shed for him to lie on. Made it seem more like a bed to him, more like a home. The walk to Friendly takes a good long time unless I hitch a ride. I'm not allowed to get in a car with somebody I don't know, but Dad, being the mail carrier for this part of the county, I know most everybody who goes by. The first person to come along this day, though, is Judd Travers. When I hear the sound of a motor and turn to see his truck slowing down, I turn forward again and keep walking, but he pulls up beside me. Want a lift? He sings out. No, thanks, I say. I'm almost there. Where are you going? I couldn't think fast enough to lie. David Howard's. Hell, boy, you ain't even halfway. Hop in. I know I don't have to unless I want, but if he's already suspicious about me, that'll only make it worse. So I get in. See my dog yet? First thing out of his mouth. I've been looking all over the roads, I tell him. No beagle. Well, I don't think he'd stick to the roads, Judd says. Not a dog as shy as him. Shy as a field mouse, except when he's around rabbits. That's what the man said who sold him to me. And he was right about that. Well, how much did you pay for him? I asked. Got him cheap because he's shy. $35. Worth a lot more than that as a hunting dog if I can keep that damned animal home. You gotta treat a dog good if you want him to stick around, I say, bold as brass. What do you know about it? Judd jerks his head in my direction, then turns the other way and spits his tobacco out the window. You never even had a dog, did you? Well, I figure a dog's the same as a kid. You don't treat a kid right, he'll run off first chance he gets too. Judd laughs. Well, if that was true, I would have run away when I was 4. Far back as I can remember, Pa took the belt to me. Big old welts on my back so raw, I could hardly pull my shirt on. I stuck around. Didn't have any place else to go. I turned out, didn't I? Turned out how? The boldness in my chest is growing, taking up all the air. Now Judd sounds mad. You trying to be smart with me, boy? No, just asking how you turned out. Somebody who was beat since he was 4? I feel sorry is what I feel. Judd's real quiet a moment. The big old wad of tobacco in his cheek bobs up and down. Well, don't go wasting your sorry on me, he says. Nobody ever felt sorry for me, and I never felt sorry for nobody else. Sorry's something I can do without. I didn't say anything at all. When we reach the road where David Howard lives, and the truck slows down, I can walk from here, I tell him. Thanks. I get out. But as I come around the truck to cross the road, Judd leans out the window. Like I said, that dog's a shy one. Don't think you'll see much of him near the road, but keep your eye out for him in the fields. That's where he'll be, more than likely. You see him, all you gotta do is whistle. That's what I teach him. I whistle, and he comes to me. He gets fed. But if he does something I don't like, I'll kick him clear to China. You see him, just whistle, and then hang on to him. I'll come pick him up, you hear? I hear, I tell him, and I keep on